Lounge by SpringPod, where we bring you inspiring career stories and practical tips from leading entrepreneurs and influencers. We hope you tuned in to some of our previous sessions where we've had incredible speakers like Carl Canadu, BBC News presenter Martin Croxall, Olympian Anna Hemmings, and many others. They're all available, like I said, to watch on demand on the Learn Lounge website. We're SpringPod, an early careers network for young people to explore their future options, from apprenticeships to university. My name's Joe, and I'll be hosting this session of Learn Lounge today. Just a couple of pointers before we start. The talk should last around 45 minutes. If you do have any questions for Tom while we're going through today's talk, then please do use the Q&A function. He'd absolutely love to answer them. Remember to tag us on social media as well with hashtag LearnLounge. And finally, we'll be raising money for the Children's Trust. So please do donate, and we'll talk to you more about that later on. We're excited to be joined today by Tom Griffiths, who is one of Sunday Times' top 100 disruptors and entrepreneurs. Now, Tom is someone who has had an incredible ride from a sports mad dreamer at 18 to launching gapyear.com and even publishing his first travel advice book when he was just 22. And then since then, he's been the driving force behind some really cool business and media related campaigns. Now, the truth is, if you can think of it, Tom has probably done it, or he'll definitely be thinking of doing it, like a true constructive disruptor. And to quote Richard Branson, who said of Tom, his energy and enthusiasm is infectious. Welcome to Learn Lounge, Tom. Thank you so much for being here today.
I know, it's great to be here. Great to be here.
Now, we're just going to take, before we get into the main heart of your journey today, we're going to take a quick look at you in action doing the 90-minute challenge in a video. But just before we do, just briefly explain to everyone who's watching what it is we're about to see.
Yeah, this is a cool thing. It was always wanted to set up a business in 90 minutes. I thought it could be done. And the idea is you crowdsource it with students. So we did it. The very first one, I think this one we're about to see is the second one we did. So we'd learned from our mistakes, the first one. The first one worked really well. And literally we go in, students have no idea what's going on. We crowdsource an idea, and 90 minutes later, it's done. And the students filmed this as well. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a scary thing to do, but very cool.
Brilliant. Let's take a look at you in action at Northwest College.
So look, it's very simple. So in 90 minutes, we are going to launch a business, okay? It's a business idea we're going to crowdsource in the room right now. So in a few minutes, if you have an idea or think something is a cool idea, now's the time to say, don't hold back. And that's what today is all about, okay? And each table's got to come up with one business idea, okay? You have 5 minutes, so get cracking. Tell the pitch exactly what this idea is and why it's brilliant.
It's a service to supply monthly Lucky Dip box of audio products, merchandise.
It's called Audio Box, okay?
We have a comic book company. Yeah, selling comic books and advertising them on the website.
See, that's great. The Comic Master's cool. Big business here in Northern Ireland, so I love that. What's the business called? Comic Book Co. There we go. We are going to be launching this. Congratulations. You are now MD of which company?
Northwest Music Videos.
Good. Round of applause, please. Sales and marketing, digital marketing, design, website, advertising, the whole sort of gamut. And what we're trying to do today is give you an opportunity to have a crack in the real world of doing something like that.
We found the domain name is northwestmusicvideos.co.uk. Social media part of it, Northwest Music Lee at northwestmusicvideos.co.uk. Just like it, thumbs up, thumbs down.
We want you to make mistakes. We want you to do things fast. Use your gut feel.
I'm Lee Sampson, I'm the founder of Northwest Music Videos. We're looking for artists to come forward, hit me up.
Okay, everyone, we've got about a couple of minutes left. Okay, all right, 2 minutes.
If you're making music in the Northwest, we want you to come and be our guest. We shoot, crop and edit, making you the best, so come on down, put your talent to the test.
Well, we did it here at Northwest Regional College. 90 minutes. We crowdsourced an idea and we took it all the way through to completion. We got a website live, we got email live. We even got a TV advert, a radio advert, social media strategy, Twitter live, Facebook live, Instagram live, the whole lot up and running. It just goes to show you if you can dream it, You can live it. Just think about it, get on with it. We need to get more people to be creative, to be innovative, just to get on and do. So look, we're looking forward to the next one and maybe come and see you sometime.
And what I really liked about that is I think what's clear to see throughout all of that is your massive sense of a get on and do attitude. It seems very, if you have the idea, run with it and go with it straight away. Would you say that that's how you've lived your basic entire business life?
Oh, completely. It's me. I mean, you might notice the difference between the photo and me right now. So lockdown, we got an opportunity to grow a beard and grow my hair. I've never done it before. My family thought, let's do it. So I thought, I've not done it before, do it. I'm doing it. I'm not enjoying the beard side. I'm not enjoying this stuff, but we're doing it. And it's going to become a lockdown exhibit as well. So for an art project. So absolutely, everything I do is about doing that. So, when you look back at the things I've done, there's no rhyme or reason for them. It's just generally problems come up, find a solution or get on do. And it was lovely actually watching that back and seeing young Lee Simpson, I think his name was. And he just walked around going, I can't believe this is happening. This is your company. This is for real, right? You can launch. This is you right now. And I can't believe this. And the guys, they did a rap as well. And then the guy did a mic drop at the end and he was loving it. We also had a radio advert on that they put together in 90 minutes. And people said, well, could we do this? I said, well, if you want to do it, do it. And what was brilliant about that is that people realize that if they just do it, it works. You don't have to be held back. So yeah, for me, it's that. I'm a bit of an all or nothing guy. I'm a nightmare to live with. My wife will tell you that. I just get on and do. But for me, it's my lifestyle. It's the way I love to be.
It's going to be almost 22 years next month that you set up the Gap Year Company Limited back in July 1998. Let's talk a little bit more about how things started out for you, because that does kind of relate to the get on and just do attitude. How did the Gap Year come around?
22 years. I mean, the lesson there is it's like yesterday. So anyone who's young now thinking, life's ahead, the point is get on and do. How it came around was that it actually started when I was 11. My brother took a gap year, went to Australia. He came back. He had photos of bungee jumps and things like that. I thought, right, this is what I've got to do. And yeah, that was it. I was determined I was going to take a gap year. Ended up taking a gap year. I worked in McDonald's to earn my money and headed off around the world and did a typical round the world trip. Had a fantastic time, and it really opened my eyes up. I was just young, not particularly worldwide savvy guy. I was probably overconfident, not really to the ways of the world. And it was brilliant. I saw poverty. I saw real things that we didn't get back in Suffolk, where I was from. And I just got an understanding of the world. I met interesting people. And then it continued from there. And the short version, I went up to university afterwards, Manchester. I did economics. And I kept traveling. So I would earn whatever money I could earn. So I randomly picked up a didgeridoo when I was out in Australia. I thought, I wonder if I could play that. I got taught by this Aboriginal guy who taught me to play it. And then when I came back and started busking, people had never seen that before. So I earned really good money. So I was doing that. I was working bar jobs. I was doing anything possible, earn my money, and then I'd travel. So I had a trip out to Russia. I hitchhiked across Canada. In those days, we probably could, and traveled down through America and just continued traveling. And it was my final year at university. Friends of mine kept saying, how do you do this travel thing? Because they were thinking of traveling. And I just kept saying to them, do this, do that. This is how you pack a backpack. And I thought, well, I was sitting on the loo one day, genuinely, and had this eureka moment for a book called Before You Go, which is ironic for where I was. And came up and decided this is it. And I started writing a book called Before You Go. And I thought if I could write a book that I would read about how to travel, then we'll do it. And it was all about how to pack a backpack, how to buy insurance, and yeah, so it went from there really.
And you published that in 97, but then you went on to win the Times Young Travel Writer of the Year award off of that book alone. So having done that and written that book, did you think that the next obvious step was, let's take this further, or do you just think the book is enough?
I had no idea. I didn't even know why I was writing a book. I wrote the book. and the book came out. So I got Michael Palin, who a lot of people won't know, but he was very famous in the days, Monty Python guy. And I pushed and pushed to get him to do this foreword, and he did. And then I asked the Times to publish this thing, and they did. And I was like, this is great. And I just kept pushing. I got loads of people saying no, by the way. So it didn't all happen like that. But I just never gave up. And then one thing led to another. Next thing, I was appearing on TV and radio, and people saying, tell us about backpacking the world. I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. It's an amazing thing. And then it sort of then progressed on. And in those days, we're talking, I mean, to give an idea, I mean, even though Google was invented in around 98, it didn't really come out till about sort of 90,000 properly that people were using it. So we're talking pre-Google at this stage. So we heard of this thing called the internet was happening. So I didn't know about the internet. So I met this guy who sort of knew about internet. So we started going to that, produced a magazine. We just, anything that people wanted, we just kind of did. And in those days we had no money. So we slept on an office floor, and we literally ate nothing, and we just grew it. And I think that was the thing. Suddenly people were reading the magazine. I was going to schools to do school talks. People coming onto our early website. You know, we had 25,000 people in those days, which, considering websites weren't around, that was a good number from the really early days. And it just progressed, and no idea what we're doing. We just did it, and it worked. And then people loved what we did, and we were we just did our thing, and we were very true to what we did. We told people ins and out, warts and all, what it was all about. And but there was no rhyme or reason, no plan, but we just went with it. Whenever there was a problem, we found a solution. And
I think as well, quite a lot of people are going to be here watching today because, you know, they feel like they may have entrepreneurial spirit, or, you know, they've got an idea that they want to get going and you know, be the next big thing. From your experiences, having set up, you know, a large company like you did back when you did, what advice would you have for those people now?
Well, I think the first advice is everyone assumes I'm going to encourage people to be an entrepreneur. Most people, I discourage them because they watch Dragon's Den and they think that's what it's about. The reality is in life that loads of people lose homes, they lose mortgages and things like that. It's almost like a gambling thing. People, they get so convinced with this ridiculous idea they've got that they go to the ends of the earth to fight it, right? So generally, the entrepreneurial side of things is if you see there's a problem and you have a solution, go for it. So we did things like we realized early on that there was no travel insurance for gap years. In those days, you would get floodwater damage to your home, kenneling fees, which is not relevant to your average 18-year-old traveling around the world. So we went to, well, they were Midland Bank in those days, then HSBC, and then finally with Boots. And we helped them launch a gap year travel insurance. So that was a problem that we found a solution for. And we did various other things like this over the years. So we created a card with MasterCard, a prepaid card, very early one. Same sort of thing. People needed, they couldn't get access to credit cards, or credit cards were insecure. So we developed the prepaid cards and things. But if you have an idea and you think, right, I've got this incredible cucumber slicer that's going to change the world. It's going to be amazing. People are going to really, you know, so I think you've got to have a bit of sanity on that. But then also we talk about the entrepreneurial side of people. Sometimes it's called intrapreneurial behavior. And you don't necessarily need to be a Richard Branson or Lord Sugar type figure to be an entrepreneur. It's more the concept of whatever job you're in, it might be marketing, engineering, whatever, is having this feeling of looking at something and thinking, do you know what, I think it could be done better, and not just going home and hoping someone else will do it. Being brave enough, having that courage to say, do you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And generally that's around if you have a passion. If you're really into this, you'll do that. You'll go home and develop the idea.
And talking of people's attitudes, you've been known to say a lot that it's important to stay grounded and never be arrogant. Because you had a bit of a run-in with someone at MySpace, did you not?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting one. It was I had less of a run-in, but the story there was that we were a very early social network. So the basics of ours were back in 1998, so a very early one. And we knew the guys who ran a thing called Face Party. So if you never heard of Face Party, look them up. They were pretty much the first ones back in about 99 who hit 1 million young people, right? And that was huge in those days, you know, 1 million young people. So, and then it was about, I'm going to get my dates wrong here because I'm an old man now, but it's about 2005, 6, something like that. And I was at a conference and I shared the space, shared the stage with, he was like I think he was the marketing director of MySpace. And I told him about Face Party. And he said, quite arrogantly, said, oh, well, they didn't see us coming. Okay, fair enough. And then he was speaking at this event. And so it probably was about 2006 because someone then showed some research and said, well, there's a thing called Facebook, which is coming up. And they challenged him and they said, our research shows that people are going to use Facebook over MySpace. And he just didn't listen. And he was like, no chance. We're MySpace. We're the biggest. We're the best. And they were. So a few years later, would have been about 2 years later, 2007, 8, something like that. I shared the space with the head of Facebook UK or someone like that. And I told him the story about MySpace. He goes, yeah, but they didn't see us coming. Okay. So, and then a few years later, I met the guy who actually bought MySpace for News Corp. Bought him for quite a lot of money, but then they made their money from it and sort of shut them down pretty much. And so I learned really, the lesson there was that you may be big, you may be impressive, but you really got to keep looking up. Don't have the arrogance, and even to the biggest people. But I think, the grounded is no matter what you do in life, engineering, marketing, plumber, whatever. Try and keep your feet on the ground. I think that's quite important.
And how do you look at the idea of someone's image in business? Do you think that it matters, whether or not you're turning up to a business meeting in, the best suit possible, or whether you wear the suit that you've worn forever, or, your banger of a car turns up outside these glam offices?
Yeah, so it's a good little story, that, because the answer to that is you need to adjust to the surroundings you're in. Okay, so if you're in a corporate world, you will adjust to the corporate world. As an entrepreneur, you can be different. But I think corporate or not, my view has always been to be me, to be happy being me, to be confident being me. Sometimes you might be the only person dressed like that. And the story you're talking to is quite a great one, where we developed what became a gap year bank account with HSBC originally. They couldn't develop the technology behind it, so we started working with Barclays to develop this. So we went to Barclays head office, and it was myself and my business partner. We had this beat up old car. It was the most hideous car. Someone actually spray painted on it. It was an old big old Rover, and it really was the most horrible thing. And we were a bit proud of it. It was like, oh, here come the Gap boys. But it was a little bit embarrassing. So if we went to corporate events, we would hide it out the way. So we were there at Barclays, and we were meeting the marketing director. So it was quite an important meeting for us. So they said, oh yeah, come to the car park. So we came to the car park, and to our absolute fright, we were the first 2 spaces right at the front by the door. So we parked the car, went in, and thought, okay, get out the car, get in, had the meeting, came out, and the battery was flat. And we thought, this is not good. So we had to get it out of there. So a guy got in his car near us in a massive, incredible Porsche. And we did jump leads off the right in front of everyone as people were coming out for lunch. And instead of getting embarrassed, we just went, you know what, this is us. Yeah. This is us. And I think the reality there is that Barclays wanted us to talk to young people because young people associated with us, right? And that's why it worked. Otherwise, they'd do it themselves. And a couple of people walked past and looked at us and whatever, but we didn't care because at that stage, what we had, those days, about 1.5 million people using the site, right? It was a big site. We'd done a lot of things. So, I think our take home from that is we were very happy being us, and I didn't need to justify that to people, and we were just us. And I think that's what people quite liked about us, kind of what we got right. But and then anybody who isn't, I mean, we talk about people being false nowadays, but in the world of business, and it does, sticks out. So just no matter what you're doing, just be happy being you. It's a very confident thing to be you. It's actually quite insecure to dress up, to look amazing, to put on a front, but to just be you is quite a confident, strong thing.
And just tell us a little bit about where the title for this session came from today. There is no box. What do you mean by that? Well, it's me rebelling, I guess, against thing. I think I hate this thing when they say, whenever I've been to things, people say, "Oh, Tommy thinks out of the box." Like, well, there is no box. Why are we constrained to this
This is who you should be. Marketing, whatever ideas. That just says that we can't think for ourselves. People say out of the box, I say, well, are you a sheep? Don't be a sheep. You don't have to be confined. Just your mind is just you. Just whatever's in your mind, whatever you think, that's cool. You know, and there's a great expression by Henry Ford, I believe. He said, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. And that's pretty cool. I like that. And so for me, yeah, there is no box. If people say, oh, you're either a box thinker or you're not, no, you're just a thinker. And you've got to have courage to think for yourself, to do your thing, and to just have a belief in yourself. Don't be a sheep.
If you had the opportunity to go back and start all of it again, would you? Or do you think that you did it right the first time? Do you think you got everything right along the way, where you thought, actually, you know what, there's nothing that I could have done better at the time?
Oh no, we got so many things wrong, and that was brilliant. Would I do it all again? I'd do it all again. Would I do it differently? Probably, because I didn't know how to do it the first time. You know, I think, yeah, look, we made loads of mistakes. Oh, we did terrible things. So we launched an insurance policy. We thought it was fantastic. Called No Worries. It was going to change the world. That's ridiculous. It was really expensive, but you know, it was really cool, and we learned how to do it. You know, at one point we completely trashed our website accidentally, right? It's just a great idea we spent months on. We got it wrong, but we learned. So look, it's been a great ride. I guess I've never sort of had a thing of having a job. I do what I want to do, and I really enjoy what I do. It's been a tough ride. You know, there's been times where we've never had any money, times where we lost it all, times where we've had the roller coaster. You know, we raised £1.5 million when I was 26 years old, right? We've spoken, been invited, very flattered to be invited to speak around the world, and met some really interesting people. So, but I think for me, it's just, look, it's been interesting. You've got to have fun in this life. I think that's the important thing. You've really got to have fun, and you can find fun in whatever you do. We always say you've got to seek the adventure in life, whatever that adventure is. It doesn't need to be going to Mount Everest. Your adventure could just be every day when you drive to work, take a different route, right? Your adventure could just be finding something exciting, have the courage to do something exciting.
And one of your quotes as well, I've seen you say it a lot before, it's fail fast and fail cheap. And speaking of failure, because there will be a lot of people who are watching, like I mentioned earlier, who, you know, want to start their own business and want to go on to be entrepreneurs. What do you think people should know about failure? Because it's not really the end of the world, is it?
No, there's I always used to get asked this. I never really had a proper answer until a few years ago. There was a great little thing that someone did. I think it was an English school. I forget the details, but this art teacher. So this is a genuine thing that happened, as opposed to a nice, we're going to talk about the world. So this art teacher got half the students to draw a picture of an apple. And they said, right, take the entire lesson, one picture. And she said to the other half of this, right, I need you to do 30 versions of this apple. So what happened at the end was that the ones that did 30 versions did better, because they scribbled out and then they can do it better and better and better. So they made lots and lots of mistakes, and they worked out how to do it well. Whereas the ones who were trying to perfect something, you know, so essentially for me, it's everything I do is I do expecting to fail, because failure I don't see as a bad thing. Generally, failure is a bad thing because someone tells you that you failed. They say you're a failure, you haven't done it well, or they celebrate your inability to do it. But I go about things thinking, right, you know, we set up an art corridor recently as a little fantastic little project, and we just invent stuff and we put them up. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, we learn from that. I was even making lockdown, not just my hair is growing and doing stuff. We have projects. I made what did I make? It was like a cart thing. It was like to go on the back of my mower. It's like a cart thing, and I made it out of an old rowing machine and bits and pieces. And I failed badly, right? But then I've got an end product, so I don't have to do it. So I think in terms of the failure, it's a thing about when you're writing documents or creating things, right? You put it out a draft and version control everything. Draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, draft 4. And by draft 10, we're going to be there, right? And you'll surround yourself by cool people who will say, that's cool, I like this way of doing it. And if you find yourself in an environment where people are hitting you over the head with failure, I think you're in the wrong place, and it's a nicer way to work. You don't want people throwing stuff at you, but it's good. It's a good way to learn because you have to make mistakes and embrace those and embrace them in others. I think that's the other thing. If someone has the courage to stand up in front of you and say, do you know what? I've given it a go and I've got it wrong. Stand next to them and say, that's brilliant. I like that. Don't be the one who points at them and hits them with it with the others, right? Because that's just, it's not what it's about.
You wrote on the website for gapyear.com, life is a journey. It revolves around the decisions you take, the experiences you have on the way, and the reflections you make on what you've achieved. How would you say that obviously still applies to you now, or has that changed since you started that?
God, I used to write some stuff, didn't I? I can't remember that. I think you only have one life. That's a simple thing. And I had that philosophy when I traveled, like hitchhiking and doing these things. And I go at it genuinely like you've only got one crack at it. In my earlier days, they used to call me pious. And I had to look up what pious meant. And then I realized generally it's because I was a young guy who had no idea what I was talking about, but I had a rough idea. It was about doing things. As I get older, I look at my younger self and said, you had no idea, but you sort of got there, didn't you? I think so. Look, it's about I have a philosophy. I want to do general good to the world. I try most days to do something cool for the world. I split my time between making money and doing projects, and it's just what makes me tick. But I think for other people, they might not want to do that, but I don't judge them for that. They shouldn't judge me for it. So I think for young people on your life journey, if you don't know what your life journey is, if you don't know what you want to do, that's cool. That's really cool. Some of the most interesting people I know in their 70s who've done really well in life still don't know what they want to do in life, right? So if you don't know what you want to do, that's cool, right? Follow a path. But generally, I think the accepted view is find things you want to do, find your passion, take the opportunities, say yes more. That's a really cool thing. Someone says, do you want to do this? Say yes. When you're crying out to say no, say yes. And you'll be surprised at where the path leads you. And just generally be good to people. If you're good to people, people will be good to you. And so that's, I don't have particularly philosophies, but that's a general, your path will go. And I think they always say that life's the bit that happens when you're working and making plans. I'm a big believer in that. You are in life right now, right? So enjoy the time, enjoy the moment.
And just for those people who have either just joined us or didn't know much about you, like we said, you created the Gap Year Company Limited in July 1998. In 2005, gapyear.com worked with Advanced Payment Solutions to launch the Gap Year Cash Plus Prepaid MasterCard, one of the first of its kind, first for the backpacker travel market. And then in 2010, gapyear.com became a part of Flight Centre, which I'm sure everyone will have heard about when you're trying to book a holiday. When you do your projects, we've seen that your career with gapyear.com, it evolves a lot and it keeps moving. Whether or not you're a part of that or not, you seem like the sort of person who just wants to do something, complete it, and then you're happy just cutting ties and moving on to something brand new.
Do you know what? In the early days, I wasn't. We were climbing a mountain and we didn't know what mountain we were on. We just kept climbing. And then I didn't realize there were other mountains. So my world was Gap Year, completely. I didn't realize there was other things. And then after I finished the Gap Year, then I realized there were other mountains. In terms of starting projects and moving on, it depends. I mean, I set up some arts projects here in Northern Ireland. We've done one in Derry recently, and then one in Kilkeel. Kilkeel is in the Mourns, and they've been fantastic little community projects. The bit I'm good at is getting things going, like the 90-minute startup. I do that, right? And, you know, I just do that with a vengeance. I make things happen. And I get the passion, the excitement. That's me. It's what I'm good at. But then there's a part where people then just need to take over and run it. So I'm the guy who can get stuff done. And then you hand it on to and the people who can then bring it into the world and start it. So, but I think a lot of it is I do look at stuff. I do try things. So during lockdown, we tried to help the local fishermen here. So I created this new concept called Fresh Catch, which is getting fishermen to sell their fish direct to restaurants. You know, that came out the blue, had to go, figured it out, spent a week, launched it, you know, and that's done its little thing. So I think that's my thing. People come to me and say, right, you know, we need you. Can you set this up? Can you do something? That's the bit I do. And I think, you know, I'm very, very aware of the stuff I can do. I'm good at that. Rubbish at lots of other stuff.
Just before we move on to the questions we've got loads and loads of questions. We've got about 15, 20 minutes left. It's fair to say that you've, you know, had a really interesting career and you've met some really interesting people as well. And you've got yourself into some, you know, interesting situations with those people. I'm sure you know what exactly I'm talking about.
No, you have to remind me which ones I've done.
Well, yeah, there's obviously been a lot. What about Mr. Richard Branson?
Oh, well, this is my claim to fame is that I got him naked, but not as people realize. So the story there was that when I launched my first book, like you said earlier, I was 22, and I wanted to get the book out, get it seen, and so I did a naked shot of my book. I held the book over my private area, and the whole thing covers everything. Before you go, covers everything, and we turned it into a little point of sale thing. So when Waterstones took it, you got this little 8 books and a little me popped up all naked, and my mum got a bit of a shock, I have to say, on that one. But what it did is it sold the books, right? So it's great. So it was then when Branson was launching his book, his first book, Losing My Virginity, I think, so about 98, something like that, 99. And I just happened to be trying to connect with them about stuff anyway. And then the publishing director said, you know what, I like this thing. Do you mind if we can borrow it? So yeah, so that's how it came. So he then did exactly the same thing of him. There's like they had loads of money. So mine was like a cheap version. They had Richard Branson life size, naked, holding the book. But it was good. And I think the lesson there is that you have to get noticed. I mean, that's very relevant to the people today. Like, you know, if you're in the, I guess the sort of 17 to 22, 23-year-old bracket, there's a harsh reality now with all this COVID stuff is that there's a lot of people unemployed. Okay, so there's a lot of people in going to be competition for jobs with you, and you're coming out and you don't have the experience. You may think you're brilliant, but the reality is that there's employers with a lot of choice. So you have to stand out in one way, shape, or form. Not suggesting you get your clothes off, right? I just happened to do that, and I made a name for myself with the things I did by trying things. And because I tried and put things out and time and again, it got me noticed. So I think the same message here is that if you're coming out into engineering, don't just follow the flow of the river, hoping the magic fairy is going to just get you there. It's not that, you know, I hate to say that. I really hope things are going to be good for you, but the reality is it's really hard. So right at the start, get your work experience, get internship, find out. I'm picking on engineering for no apparent reason, but like engineering, there's vast amounts of areas of engineering. Go into it, research it, get interested, get your passion. So by the time you're coming to the job and you got an interview, you got something to talk about, but come up with something interesting. You know, there's some big stuff happening in the world right now. We're going to go into AI, right? Artificial intelligence is going to change the world, right? How's that going to affect your area? Because in the next 10 years, whatever area you go into is going to be affected by it. So get an idea, okay? If you're looking at health tech, for example, things like health tech's a really interesting area, my little thing at the moment. If you're walking into an area, just go in, understand how smart toilets and things might change health. We're looking at the fact that plastic bags and everything are changing the world. We're polluting the world. We have to clean all that up. Environmental. So look at solutions. So in other words, come into it with something. Show someone that you care, that you've got something. Don't just drift down this little path, right? So that's the thing I did in my own little way. I did various things to get noticed, and it worked for me. And I think the same does apply, even if, not for entrepreneurial, but just whatever career you're going into. You develop that passion and show that there's something more about you. And if you do that, I can guarantee you, people will take notice. They really will.
Tom Griffiths, thank you so much for having a chat with us today. Really, really appreciate it. It's been so interesting talking to you. Honestly, we could sit and talk for ages, but we really only just scratched the surface. I think you'll agree with everything that you've done in your life. We have had loads of questions come through, so let's crack on with some of those so we can get through as many as we possibly can. First one is guest 81 has asked, do you have any tips to stop procrastinating or putting off things that you want to do but are really anxious to do?
Yeah, it's procrastination is a terrible thing. Generally, I'm going through this. My son won't mind me talking about this. I've got a 15-year-old son who's got me for a dad, right? It's a nightmare for him, right? And so we've just been talking about decisiveness. And we've started where the alarm goes off and he presses snooze. Next time it goes off, he gets up. And for me, it's the first thing you do in the morning. You decide to get up. What he could do, he could decide to sleep on again. And he used to. And then again, and then again. The snooze button will keep going. And you never get up. But what he does is he gets decisive. And what happens now is his body says, as soon as the snooze button goes again, his adrenaline pumps, he goes, right, I'm doing it. And I think starting off first thing in the morning, get up, get out of bed. If you want to get fit, go for a walk, do something, okay? And procrastination is a similar thing where you think, I really should do something. It's like the snooze button. Keep pushing it. Stop doing that. Just do it. And I have an ultimate thing, which I've had to deploy during, I'm a bit of adrenaline junkie, bungee jumps and stuff like that. I have a thing that if I count down from 5, they get to 0, whatever it is, I do. And I've never not done it. So I know that I won't start the countdown unless it's going to happen. And it has been for a bungee jump. It has been for adrenaline sports, chucking myself off buildings and things, but also for, I'm going to make this phone call. I call it 10 seconds of bravery, right? I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to send the email. It's how I met my wife, right? 10 seconds of bravery. I met my wife and it's the best thing that ever happened to me, right? I'm a very lucky man. So procrastination, you just got to say, right, I'm going to do it. But what you never do with procrastination is not do it. So you just make a decision and set yourself a thing. I've always done it in my life. If I count down from 5, I get to 0, I go, no matter what it is. If I've got something strapped to my back and a massive chasm I'm going into, or I'm going to make a phone call, I'm going to do something, and I always go. And that solves me. If you're terrified, there's a great quote, I think which I had the same thing, which is, courage doesn't mean you have no fear. Courage means you don't let fear stop you, get in your way. So I think procrastination is generally caused by you're not sure. Just do it.
And speaking of just doing it, guest 306 has asked, what factors do you think hold people back from getting on with it?
Quite a lot is people. So throughout my life, I was busking my didgeridoos, right? So, and I would walk around looking like a homeless guy with all my kit and stuff, right? And people walk by and say, and I would hear all these things about, oh, he's doing that, but you know what? In those days, and we're talking a long time ago, 1995, 6, I was earning £100 an hour, right? Busking in London with didgeridoos and stuff. It's a lot of money. So you get people saying, if you do that, you're just a homeless guy with an instrument, right? But it didn't stop me. I did things. So I think you'll get parents saying, oh, I would love my son, daughter to be a doctor. I would love them to be a famous lawyer. Whereas you just want to be an artist, or you want to be an engineer, or whatever you want to be. So it's you have to live your life and not. So generally, it's other people holding you back. It's the fear that you're going to stand up and say, "This is what I want to do," and other people say, "No, you shouldn't do that." No, they don't want you to do it. But if you want to do it, just believe in yourself and give it a go. And do you know what? If it doesn't work, that's fine, because actually you've learned what not to do. You failed, and that's great, because you're not, you think, I want to be an architect, and then you realize actually you're going to be rubbish as an architect whilst you're doing work experience. We're rubbish at this. But we have 3 generations of architects in the family. Yeah, well, not you, So I think other people hold you back, and lack of self-belief, and you should have self-belief.
Guest 874 has said, disruptor has such a negative feeling associated with it, but in business I see everyone looking for disruptors. So why do you think people think of it negatively if you're a disruptor when you're younger?
Well, it's interesting. People see it as negative, because that's not always the case, but I see where the questions come from. Look, disruption, it depends what the term disruption is. So if you look at so Airbnb and Uber, for example.
Yeah, one of your quotes was Uber and Airbnb weren't the first to do what they did. They were just the best executed.
Yeah, there you go. So just if you look at that, so Airbnb and Uber, let's look at Uber. So before Uber, people used to, once I want to get home, get on the phone, and then they call someone who has a pool of taxis, and they say, we'll get one to you in the next hour, 2 hours, whenever we can get it to you. Uber completely changed that. So the disruptive side of how you get taxis changed. And then it was all about the driver doing the best they could, because they want to get the best reviews and things. Airbnb as well, they just can't do enough to give you a great holiday, which is, so it changed. So disruption element is always been around. In the early days, I was called, people like myself, innovators or whatever. All you do is you start thinking about doing things differently. We were playing with an augmented reality app, and we ran a TV advert on a bank card, right? It's quite cool. Was it disruptive? Only if you do something with it. Only if a bank launches it, right? So the disruptive side is disruption always happens. Disruption is when you're literally changing course. So how we order taxis changes course forever. Anyone can disrupt. All you have to do is find out where the solution to an interesting problem everyone has is. But like you say, it's the execution of it. Airbnb wasn't the first. Uber wasn't the first. They were just the best executed. So disruption is great. People like me, we can run around, jump around. He's fantastic, amazing things, right? But then you've got to have a really good team to execute it. So it's required, but it needs the people behind it.
We've got time for just a couple more questions. Guest 615 has asked, how do we start a business in high school? I think if you've got a couple of top tips there on how to get off the ground.
Well, you showed the video of the 90-minute startup. If they can, I don't know if you put a link up to that somewhere, and that what you don't have to do is physically start a business company's house. Just get on with it, right? You can build a little website for free, or just use all the free tools. Depends what you want to do. So I met a young lad who, so he would have been 16, I think, or 17, and this is Young Enterprise is the answer to that, obviously. And he was part of a Young Enterprise thing. And I said to him, he said, I've got a gardening business. Oh, really? How's it going? Fantastic. And he had something like 30 clients, like 3 or 4 staff in this gardening business in Surrey or something. He just got on and did it, right? So the answer is, how do you do it? Get on, find your first customers, do a really good job, get their reviews, start earning a bit of money, keep meticulous accounts, do everything above board, nice and clean, build the money, go to the next thing, and just keep growing. When you've got enough money then to build, a website, do that, and just keep going, just follow your path. But look, we ran out of money. We slept on the office floor, right? We lived on pot noodle water, literally. So, and just do what you want to do, but believe in yourself and go for it. Just give it a go.
We've got time for just one final question before, unfortunately, we have to wrap things up. But like I said, any questions that we didn't get answered today, we'll send them over to Tom and chat back on the replay page in a few days' time. Final question from guest 326. How important is it to start networking at a younger age? How does it help? And any tips to go about it?
Yeah, Joe, brilliant tip. Well, my thing is unless you know where you want to go, what you're doing, not necessarily important to network. Okay, it's good to go out and start meeting people and getting those contacts. A really good tip though is when you do start to have an idea. So we're picking engineering for this example throughout this interview. So if you think, right, engineering, I like this area, get onto LinkedIn, do a very open, honest page on yourself. This is who I am. I'm a student. This is what I want to do, but I'm interested in engineering. I'm an engineering student. Do something about yourself in that little intro bit. Tell them about you, and then start connecting with people. And you'd be surprised how many people, senior people in engineering, would look at you and think, do you know what, that was me, and they'll connect with you, right? And then the final thing about the networking is don't waste people's time, but go for that opportunity. And I've met so many interesting people over the years who've I met a very famous photographer who did a work experience placement with a very famous photographer, learned from the best, and then networked around then. So I think that would be the answer. If you definitely know what you want to do and you find people you really admire, and see if you can get some work experience with these guys. Don't waste their time. Don't ask for money, right? And then follow the path. And but yeah, and LinkedIn is great for that. But don't pretend to be who you're not. It's pretty obvious, right? You're a student or whatever. Just tell them this is who I am. I just want to learn and meet people, but just take the opportunities.
Tom, thank you once again so much for everything and answering as many of those questions as we could. We'll get those questions across to you. So anyone who's watching, if you ask a question, check back on the page in a few days' time. And make sure you also follow Tom on social media as well. And that brings us to the end of another Learn Lounge session, another fabulous Learn Lounge session. Once again, thank you so much to Tom for taking the time to share your journey with our viewers. Just a reminder that we're also raising funds for the Children's Trust, which is the UK's leading charity for children with brain injury. If you consider donating, please do so via the link that's on screen now. That's thechildrenstrust.org.uk/donate. Thanks for your support and thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow morning for another employability masterclass, this time with Craig Coutinho from Pearson College, London, where we'll be discussing how you can use all this time to improve your employability. That will be another great one. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Bye-bye.